Ever pulled a paperclip out of your pocket and actually looked at it? It's not just a twisty metal doodad. Norwegian inventor Johan Vaaler filed the first patent in 1899, calling it a paperclip in Oslo.
Aha, Doodles.
But here's the thing. Until about 130 years ago, that exact shape didn't exist. The first patent for a bent wire clip was filed in 1867 by Samuel B. Fay in the U.S., but it was meant for tickets, not paper, and looked like a tiny coat hanger. So why does it look like that now? The answer isn't just about holding paper together. It's about a secret battle between two inventors who never even met. Turns out, the bendy champ we know today was patented in 1899 by a guy named William Middlebrook, who also invented the machine to make them by the millions. Picture a medieval scriptorium, rows of monks hunched over desks, quills scratching parchment. Now zoom in on the parchment. See those tiny holes along the edge? That's how they bound pages, threading ribbons through holes pricked by hand. Every new page meant more holes. Every hole meant more ruined parchment. Scribes hated poking holes, so they tied pages with messy thread or wax seals, which sounded great until you tried to add just one note. Straight pins were the upgrade. No holes, just jab and hope. Then came the bent wire genius, Noah Remlai, who in 1877 designed a shape that actually held together without poking your shirt like a tiny, angry snake. Before the clip, folks used wax seals that melted easily, forcing clerks to staple pages together with actual pins and hope for the best. So the need was real, but the tool, not really there yet. That's where Samuel B. Fay steps in. Look at his 1867 design. It wasn't for holding documents together. No, sir. It was actually a ticket fastener. Imagine a train conductor clipping a stub to your coat. The wire was a single, crude loop with a hook on the end. It worked, sure, but it was clunky. It felt more like a tiny fishhook than an office supply. People started using it for papers anyway, just because it was handy, but it never quite caught on like the gem would later. It was a prototype. Fay's 1867 patent, US 64,088, called it a ticket fastener, and honestly, it clung to paper like my phone clings to low battery mode. Desperate but not dependable. Fay's loop was basically a straight wire with one bend. Think about that physics. It lacked the springiness. It couldn't flex and snap back. It just hoped the paper would stay put. And for tickets on fabric, enter Norwegian inventor Johan Vaaler, 1899, Oslo, who filed a patent for a nearly identical design, but his had one fatal flaw: zero grip. Vaaler's version was so slippery, it'd slide off your stack faster than a toddler's socks on a hardwood floor. 1901 tests in Berlin proved it. Now here's the twist. Fay didn't make a million of these. He didn't market them as the future of office work. He just sold them as a way to keep your train ticket safe. The bigger world had to figure out the rest. And they did. They took that rough idea and refined it. They realized the secret wasn't just bending the wire. It was the shape of the bend itself. Fay's clip was a one-trick pony, great for tickets, lousy for paper. So in 1896, Connecticut's William Middlebrook patented the first double-loop champ that actually hugged the sheets like a caffeinated octopus. So the paper clip, as we know, it was still hiding in the future. Fay opened the door but didn't walk through. His patent was real. The date is real. March 23, 1867. But the glory, that went elsewhere. People kept inventing. They kept bending wire. And they kept failing. Until someone finally cracked the code on tension. Until the wire learned to hold on tight. We are close now. Really close. Enter Cornelius Brosnan, a Brooklyn jeweler who, in 1896, twisted wire into the first clip that actually clung. Like your phone charger that finally stays put for 5 whole minutes. Brosnan's twisty wonder was called the Clip, sold in New York stationery shops for a nickel. About the price of a hot pretzel back then. Then in 1896, Brooklyn's Gem Manufacturing Co. stamped out the first double-loop gem clip, cheap as chips, bendy as a tick-tock dance, and it clung like your little cousin on the last day of school. Before the gem clip, Some 1866 American batches used a wire with a tiny spring coil that tended to flop loose like a loose tooth. So the hook was born. But here's the twist, it wasn't Norwegian. Not yet. Enter Johan Vaaler, a man who would become the most famous paperclip nobody ever used. Vaaler was a patent clerk in Christiania, now Oslo, who spent his days surrounded by other people's inventions. In 1899, he sketched his own version, a single loop of wire bent into a rectangle with a tiny tail. He filed patents in Germany and the US in 1900 and 1901. The world yawned. Why? Because his design was worse. No second loop, no grip, just a flimsy hook that slipped off paper like a banana peel. Vaaler never saw his clip manufactured. He died in 1910, one day shy of his 44th birthday, still convinced he'd invented something. He hadn't. The gem clip was already everywhere, but Norway needed a hero. In the 1920s, a nationalist myth was born. Vaaler, the forgotten genius who invented the paperclip. Never mind that his design was useless. Never mind that Norway never produced it. The myth stuck. During WW2, when Norway was occupied by Nazis, the paperclip became a secret symbol of resistance. Norwegians wore them on lapels. A quiet "we're still here." The actual clip started working in 1899 thanks to Thor Rasmussen in Sweden. Not some single bending genius. Actually, Vaaler's patent drawings show a clip with no bends at all. Just a straight wire loop that would never hold a single sheet of paper. That straight loop was a total flop. So the real useful version actually popped up in the US first, courtesy of William Middlebrook in 1899. Meanwhile, across the North Sea, a British factory was quietly perfecting the bend. The year: 1899. The gem paperclip. 2 full loops, not one. A single piece of wire twisted into something elegant. Here's how it worked. You slid the paper between the tongues, and the wire's own tension gripped it tight. No tearing, no fuss. Just a quiet click of metal on paper. But here's the twist. Nobody cared. For decades, the market was dominated by the Niagara, a bulky, jagged thing that looked like it was designed by a committee of angry hedgehogs. And the ideal: a single loop that flopped around like a sad noodle. Honestly, it's a miracle it sold at all. So why did the gem eventually win? Because it was the first clip that didn't fight you. It just worked, and sometimes that's all it takes. A design so simple, so obvious, that once you see it, you can't unsee it. Sure, but don't let the 1920 office catalogs fool you. The actual hero, Johan Vaaler, was already filing his patent in 1899. Picture this, 1920. An office supply catalog thicker than a phone book. But amongst the early designs, one from Samuel B. Fay in 1867 offered a simple single loop, a precursor to our modern marvel, the Niagara. A circular loop that jammed every typewriter in the building. The ideal: a single loop so flimsy it bent after one use. And then there was the gem. No fancy claims, just 2 full loops, cheap steel, and a promise it wouldn't let you down. But here's the kicker: the gem wasn't even new. It had been quietly winning since the 1890s. Turns out, the best design doesn't always shout the loudest. It was Norwegian inventor Johan Vaaler's 1899 patent. 2 elegant loops, no springs, just pure hold-my-paper genius that finally cracked the code. You're sitting in a dim London office, 1940. The windows are taped shut. Outside, the hum of bombers grows louder. On your desk, a stack of top-secret files, and one ordinary paperclip. But this isn't just office supply, it's a ticking clock. British intelligence had a rule: if the Germans invade, burn everything. But how do you mark which files to torch first? The answer: paperclips. A single clip meant destroy immediately. 2. Save at all costs. Over in Norway, resistance fighters had their own code. They wore paperclips on their lapels, a silent "we stand together." Turns out, the Nazis weren't just annoyed. They jailed a Norwegian teacher, Sophus Tromhold, for handing out 2,000 paperclips as protest symbols in 1941. Meanwhile in Washington, the OSS, America's spy agency, had a different problem: locks. Specifically, how to pick them with whatever's in your pocket. Training manuals taught agents to straighten a clip into a tension wrench. Bend the tip. Now it's a rake. 2 tools, 1 gram of steel. And yeah, it mostly just worked on cheap padlocks. But in a pinch, that was enough. But here's the thing. None of that mattered if the clip itself wasn't up to the job. Most designs had a fatal flaw. Too stiff. They'd snap. Too flimsy. They'd fly open. Too complicated. They'd jam every machine they touched. Enter the 1950s. Offices weren't just desks and typewriters anymore. They were photocopiers, printers, and collating machines. And those machines, they hated paper clips. A single bent loop could wreck a whole print run. So manufacturers had a choice: redesign the clip or lose the contract. The gem secret: 1.5 loops. No sharp edges, no weak points, just a smooth, springy grip that could survive being fed through a printer 100 times. It was cheap too. A single clip cost less than a penny to make. Competitors, they were charging double for a design that might last a week. By the 1960s, the gem was the only clip left standing. Offices standardized it. Schools taught it. Even the military stockpiled it. Turns out, the gem's secret weapon was its price. Under a penny per clip, cheaper than a single M&M in today's candy aisle. It's not just a random squiggle. It's the survivor of 100 years of office warfare, where every bend, every loop, and every millimeter of wire was a battleground. The gem's design: 1.5 loops. Not 2, not 1, 1.5. That's the magic number that balanced grip, cost, and durability. That 1.5 loop wonder was so good, IBM ordered 12 million in 1958, enough to clip every tax return in America twice. By the 1960s, the gem had conquered every desk on Earth. Schools, governments, even NASA stockpiled them. And here's the wildest part. In 1999, Norway's postal service issued a stamp celebrating the gem, not for mail, but for surviving 100 years without a single redesign, beating out flip phones and low-rise jeans. Next time you bend one around your finger, remember, you're holding a tiny piece of history that's older than your grandparents' grandparents.